One more thing I noticed, right? When we talk about cannabis and healing, we generally talk about how cannabis helps in certain ailments. Uh, how about we also look into how cannabis helps a person who may not need any strong healing. He's just say a normal guy who wants to hit the gym daily. Maybe he goes to a MMA class. He needs to be less sore. And just Tim, can you give me an idea of how a healthy person with no issues can integrate cannabis into his life without being a stoner or without being,
Yeah.
yeah, man, you know,
Yeah.
without
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think we have to see cannabis as get off of the effects of how the stoner kind of syndrome works, and really get onto the effects of wellness. So what I like to frame up for folks who may be like hardcore athletes or something like that, and I go into my spiel. I tell them how much they need it, but I also give them the understanding that this is really an essential vitamin. And if you can take small amounts daily, like you would take a vitamin C pill or something like that, and if you can take it small amounts daily, number one, you'll never get high. You will see the intrinsic benefits of your body's endocannabinoid system working in an optimal form. And you won't have to worry about the smoking effect or the stigma perhaps of smoking. And if folks can just consume it in low doses and see it as an essential vitamin, much like we do with anything else, a lot in this country specifically as a supplement, I think the stigma goes away, and it's seen more as a benefit to all.
Cool. Yeah. There's a lot of athletes in the United States. A lot of athletes who are using CBD now. Many. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just everyday people too. I mean, it literally is becoming the sort of, just like Tim said, a standard nutritional supplement just sitting on your shelf next to your vitamin C or your fish oil, whatever. It's for so many people. It's just like, oh yeah, take my tincture drops today. Pop my gel cap today. It's becoming so just a household product now. Even for children, some children are taking it too. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's becoming mainstream, and that's exactly where it needs to be.
Yeah.
And it's a new social conscience. It's really cool to watch.
Yeah.
Right. One more thing. So recently there was this huge story in India which blew up, right? Where an actor was perhaps consuming CBD, and unfortunately the actor passed away later. And so what happened was that the news channels, when they reported his lifestyle and things like that, they mentioned a lot of drugs like LSD, MDMA, CBD, and like they just grouped it, heroin. They just grouped it over there. Um, I think there's a. So how can you help shed some more light on how CBD is not a drug, how CBD is it's or even cannabis as a whole should not be grouped along with these other substances which clearly have serious side effects, potentially lethal side effects, except for
Yeah.
LSD, but at least the amphetamines,
Yeah.
A
So
scientific overview, if you can help me give.
yeah, you hit it on the head there with side effects. That's the big one. That's if you look into the science community around cannabis, the one thing you're going to have a hard time finding are side effects. Now, if you take whatever it may be, MDMA, LSD, the potential for side effects is huge. So you can't lump cannabis into a street drug nomenclature. It doesn't fit there. There are no side effects. It's not processed like traditional drugs are. It's a safe and recreational plant in comparison to a synthetically produced a drug like heroin or LSD, as to where you can take it, you can have long-lasting side effects that can be detrimental. They could even cause death. Now you can take CBD, you'll have no side effects, and I can guarantee you it'll never kill you. You can't overdose on it. So that's again one of the many benefits of it. But we have to get away from calling cannabis and cannabidiol and associating it with drugs. We have to associate it with natural wellness, and much like I talked about, almost like a vitamin. It doesn't. The honor of this plant, it doesn't. Never should be associated with things like MDMA or anything like that. Anything that can kill or hurt, this plant doesn't do that.
Can you
I really
share with me
appreciate that. Yeah, so much of it got
examples
associated
of
with drugs. Oh, sorry, Vinesh, go ahead.
sorry, yeah. So can you guys share with me both Blake and Team you examples of some maybe very famous people like politicians or sportsmen or others that you know who have used cannabis in a way that is not what is would be considered irresponsible or stoner like as in the way media portrays it, but have managed to lead a successful and a good example by the way they have used it and integrated it to further themselves in their life.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of professional athletes in the United States and Canada who are using CBD and seeing incredibly wonderful benefits from it that are speaking on it across the globe. There's professional athletes like Rob Gronkowski. He's a professional football player. There's professional golfers. There's many folks from the NBA that actually own CBD and cannabis companies because of those benefits. They're actually starting businesses themselves in the cannabis space. Music folks. There's a lot of folks in the music industry that are longtime professionals that are really well known here in this country that are using my products and seeing the many benefits, keeping them on the road longer and seeing the intrinsic benefits of wellness. So there's a lot. This is what's unique. I think about something that you mentioned in the age of the internet and the access to information and the access to culture with the internet. And we're seeing that influence in the cannabis space. Like you said, it's your generation is now seeing that, there's folks here that are using it responsibly, properly, and being successful. And you are able to see that culture through the internet. So yes, there's a lot of reputable folks out here. For instance, the chief of police and the chief of the fire department here in our city use my products. They love them. A variety. Like I said, variety. We have a really strong presence in sports right now. We serve a lot of professional golfers, pro athletes across the board.
And I even think of, I'm assuming that this musician and performer is well known in India, but Willie Nelson.
Willie Nelson, of course.
Willie Nelson is as big as you could possibly get as a global, star influencer. And what, Tim, his company is Willie's Remedies or something like that? He's got his own CBD company he started.
Yeah, Willie's Reserve.
Yeah, was it Willie's Reserve? Because I know he does something in THC, I think, too. But I think he has a whole CBD line also, yeah.
Yeah, both sides, and you mentioned it earlier, Vinesh, Snoop.
Yeah.
I mean, Snoop's huge. Yeah. Yeah, his brand kills it. The Marley Brothers, you name it, they're all in.
Yeah. Who's the Cheech and Chong guy? What's his name?
Tom Chong.
He's got quite the. He definitely has the baggage, for lack of a better word. He's got his own stereotype of who he is, but still, it's a CBD company that's healing a lot of people. That is so focused on wellness and is all about hemp plants. And very wellness focused, not drug focused, totally wellness focused. Yeah, it's just the list just goes on and on. It's a complete revolution here. Yeah.
How many people do you think within the US Senate or the Congress would be taking CBD?
Oh man, that's a tough one. Having spent time in Washington, there's still a generation ahead of me, and I'm in my late 40s. Those guys are still I would say maybe a few of them are using cannabis products, but there's probably not too many yet. But that's changing.
Yeah. Yeah, nice to know that. Yeah. And where are we at with the clinical trials regarding cannabis products? What's the current? Can you give us an idea of the current status of where the what the medical trials are saying, what the clinical tests conducted are concluding?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of investigational new therapies around cannabis in this country, and a lot of new cannabis-derived drugs being um, um, researched and actually been into trials, human trials. There's actually right now, I counted about 2 weeks ago, I counted 26 investigational new cannabis drugs for a variety of ailments from spastic disorders like seizures and epilepsy, those kind of things, all the way to skin issues like psoriasis, having patchy skin. So it's interesting because it's not only is now going from ingestible cannabis, but now it's going for topically used cannabis and seeing the multiple benefits and the research that are providing now. I would say that overall, the research side of things and the over-the-counter drug side of cannabis is probably going to explode in the next 36 months here in the United States once we have some more regulations in place. But there are a lot of clinical trials being done around CBD, CBG, THCA, not the oxidized, but the acid form. Some of the minor cannabinoids, CBC, CBN, for different for a variety of different reasons. But yes, clinical trial. I mean, I would say the increase in trials has probably been 100% over the time of regulation that has been put in place. So we continue to do them here in this country. I got to do a little bit of clinical work recently around Corona and the COVID-19 virus on how cannabis helps in preclinical settings, as to where, say, perhaps, say I'm diagnosed with COVID. If you can introduce a large amount of cannabinoids before this cytokine storm happens in your lungs, your ability to fight off this by about 30 to 33% in the studies that we've done here in the United States and with our partners in Israel. So a lot of great trial work and a lot of good information around cannabis is coming out.
Wow, very cool.
Yeah.
Very
yeah.
cool. Good question, Dinesh.
Yeah, really good one.
Awesome.